I saw a movie, so you didn't have to. And I just want to say, if you want to see something that 1,000 people can see and everybody come away with a different opinion, the movie Am I a Racist is probably that film. It's a documentary comedy. There's a little bit of drama, but most of that's brought by the participants rather than the documentarian. And in this case, it's Matt Walsh from the Daily Wire. Now, you can arrive at a predestined location just by thinking about the fact of the production company and the person that's involved. But I think you'd be making a mistake because this film is a lot more nuanced than you would think. In fact, there's a lot of ways to come away with a different perspective because of how the film treats the subject matter, which of course is the idea of inherent racism, which I'm now convinced is absolutely balderdash. But it's funny because anybody else in that audience could have come away with a different perspective. What's fascinating about it is that it's funny. Unintentionally so. Or maybe because of Matt Walsh's deadpan delivery, it just was the way it was going to be. For whatever he does, he seems to deliver everything with sincerity, a deftness of clarity, and an intangible that I'll have to see if I can figure out. But he's certainly not afraid of his pronouns, and he certainly does eventually give them in the first act. I'm going to say this. The manner with which this was constructed was creatively. And yes, he did have to somewhat shift his persona in order to try to make this work. He also had to confront a lot of people with whom he disagrees with vehemently. In fact, I'm often surprised during the course of the film that they don't recognize him. And it makes perfect sense that a lot of the subjects and subject matter that they cover that he actually confronts and has conversations with in the most civil way possible actually ended up deleting their social media presence. For example, Robin DiAngelo doesn't seem to be around anymore. And there are many others that are directly confronted. And the amount of awkwardness in the third act is kind of the chef's kiss, for lack of a better way to describe it. I'm not going to break down the entire film. You've seen some clips, I'm certain. But I will say that as you go through it, the only thing that's slow is the beginning. And maybe that's intentional, and maybe it's required. You have to start to feel what the pace of the film is going to be. It's a slow burn, but it's worthwhile. The payoff is very much worth it, and it will lead everybody in the audience to a different conclusion. One thing that's unmistakable, though, that I can agree with other reviewers in the space is to say that it was funny, and that humor resonated throughout the entire audience. Now, unfortunately, because of where I live, this wasn't showing in my favorite megaplex. I had to go elsewhere, which meant smaller theater size. But almost every seat in the theater was full, and fortunately, they were fully reclining and very, very comfortable, so I didn't really mind so much. And as I said, the pacing of the film is not fast. You don't get a frenetic pace like oftentimes is required for, many of these comic book films. There aren't a lot of gotcha moments that you would have expected in something like this. Just slow revelations of a man's journey trying to do the work. And boy, are you going to get tired of that slogan. The only thing is, as I keep mentioning the pacing, that's really the problem, is the beginning is very slow. And by no means is this a masterpiece. This is a documentary, commentary. I don't know. Anyway, I'll have to figure out the word, but this is one of those films that maybe started out one way and just became unintentionally something else. Regardless, it's slow. And if you take away anything from this review, it's that you're going to have to wait through that 15-minute, 20-minute slog at the beginning to kind of get your teeth set on what's to come. Now, I'm not saying the rest of the film is slow. Act 2 and Act 3 are amazing. And at an hour and 41 minutes, the only time you'll look at your watch is sometime during that first act. For no other reason than really it's purposefully done, I believe. And again, just to reiterate, this is no great film. It's not going to win an Oscar for documentary. It's not going to win any awards, to be fair. But I don't think it has to. I think it just has to make a point. And as somebody I went to the film with said, it also is there to make money. I'm not sure this is going to make a ton of money, but the fact that it's in the top 5 after the first weekend should tell us something. Something else that's telling is the fact that Rotten Tomatoes, whatever word you want to use, has no interest in letting anybody review this. They don't want more than the 5 people who have already done so, the professional reviewers, even get close, and they certainly don't want to count them. In fact, as of this recording, it still says 0, despite the fact that there are 5 reviews, including from people we know like Alan Ng and Christian Toto. Many other folks that are qualified to be official Rotten Tomatoes reviewers are just simply not being counted, which is a little disgusting, a little disturbing, and more than a little bit telling. As far as the production quality, I'll have to say that I'm rather amazed. They did a stellar job in an overblown soap opera kind of a camera style, which utilizes every bit of the 4 to 8K that this thing was shot in. Don't expect this to try to replicate film or anything other than that. This was real to be real, and you can see that in just every single cinematography shot. The decision to follow this all the way through beginning to end was also something that I didn't anticipate. Also, the moments of fancy where this obviously goes off into a little bit more theatrical and dramatic moment is easily excused because of the content that's sandwiched between. Because at the beginning, you'll get kind of a fanciful moment, and at the end, you'll receive the same thing. It's the meat in the middle that will have you thinking, and probably everybody else in the audience, and, well, probably the people who are not covering it because they know what lies there. And one thing sandwiched in the middle that I think was probably the best part, and I'm going to get called out from this by certain people, but it had moments with the actual authors that were so resonant that you can't ignore them, whether it be Robin DiAngelo or the gentleman that wrote Hate Crime Hoax. I think that you'll be often surprised at what they say and their responses to Matt, not even realizing who he really is. And maybe that was the best part of it all. But we have to come upon a rating, because obviously that's what I do here. That's my whole shtick, right? I saw a movie, so you didn't have to. This one, you may want to. If for no other reason, at least you'll understand what the purpose was of this, and maybe you'll walk away with some knowledge that you didn't have before. And maybe you'll actually hear somebody in the audience talk about something that resonated with them and maybe have hit them in a way that they weren't expecting. And then, take away a different conclusion that you did that you don't agree with. But I guess that's the point. Regardless, as far as rating goes, this thing is okay. It came out at an average film for me at a 6 out of 10. In fact, it may even be a 5 out of 10 by the time I wake up on Wednesday morning. But when I look at how this film was put together and the entire point of the film and why it got created, beyond, obviously, capitalism, it was certainly very, very well done. It just isn't going to be my favorite film of the year. It's just a film that I saw that really was worth my time, which... how often can we say that these days? And because it's an average film, it falls right in the 2.5 star range as well. I would nudge it up to a 3, but I would feel guilty, even though it's more consistent with my scale of 10. I think the star rating has to be a little bit more robust. So I'm just going to say 2.5 stars, leave it there, and, find me on my hypocrisy, I guess. And look, I'm not going to pretend that Daily Wire is a juggernaut when it comes to making cinema. They certainly aren't when it comes to making documentaries, but at least they make you think. And I think right now we need more thinking. I think we need more thinking. Yeah, I think we need more thinking. On that note, be sure to take care of yourself. Take care of others. Wash your hands because it's good hygiene. Don't let anybody tell you it's not. And until next time, see ya.